Things are about to explode in T.I. and Tiny's house, and this time it's deeper than Instagram fights. With a grandson on the way, King Harris is promising revenge, so chilling, it sounds like a vendetta passed down a generation. His words? "I will raise this child to make you pay for what you did to me." Now whispers point to King's partner, Big Nana, as the one stirring chaos behind closed doors. Power moves, family threats, and a baby caught in the middle. What really goes on behind the cameras will shock you. Stay tuned, because this family drama just turned dangerous. The rumors are spiraling out of control. Whispers say Nana has been emotionally toying with King for months, carefully pulling strings until she had him right where she wanted. Some are calling it a baby trap, claiming she planned this pregnancy to lock herself into the Harris family name, with her eyes fixed on fame, fortune, and the spotlight. But here's the twist: T.I. isn't the type to sit back and let anyone sneak their way into his empire. From the jump, he voiced his doubts about Nana, warning King that the relationship was headed for disaster. To him, her interests looked less like love and more like an obsession with lifestyle, money, and status. And then things got even messier. Heated words flew back and forth, King trying to prove he wasn't just another silver spoon kid, while throwing out raw stories from his upbringing, reminding everyone that he had seen the rough side of life too. He painted himself as someone who wanted authenticity, not gated walls, not polished luxury, just real connection. But with all eyes on this explosive situation, the question remains, is King really in control of his choices, or is he caught in a web carefully spun around him? However, they are unaware of that. I'll tell you why he wouldn't be there instead. Are you all set? Because he can pacify and suck over there. 12 years old. He was 12 years old and suck pacify. At home, he didn't do that. He let out a baby-like cry. Remain firm. Yes, they're not going to tell you everything, but they're trying to suggest that I was over there trying to suck a pie, as if they were attempting to conceal it. No one. He's capping. He's capping. Hello, no business. Never in your life will you pull my car. B is where I stand. I make progress. B is where I stand. In your hood, you drop me. B is where I stand. You don't seem to stand on B. Yes, Bennis has stood on me. On business, I've been stood. Do you wish to keep it a secret from everyone? I'm going to display it for them to see. I wouldn't have raised anything. I haven't been pushed up nowhere by you, as if I weren't behind a mansion. You weren't. I was doing what I wanted to do outside. You were in your rear. No, you're not drinking too much. I had too much to drink. Too inebriated. Get upset because, as we say, the suburbs aren't the South. They wish to discuss something else. No, I'm being honest. You're lying. You're lying. You're flagging over here. It's you who's capping. You're capping. You're angry. It's you who's capping. You're capping. I am aware. I am familiar with you. You're a cap. You are someone I know. You are someone I know. You are someone I know. Quit talking. But I know you. It's not a mystery, but I know you. But I know you. I am aware, but I know you. You are someone I know. What's the matter with you all? Why are you all treating me that way? You are all familiar with me. I stand on business, as you are aware. I stand on business, as you are aware. Why would you ever allow someone to play with me in that manner? Why are you allowing someone to play with me in that way? Why are you allowing him to play with me in that manner? Why are you allowing him to play with me in that manner? I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. What are you saying? You're making a fool of yourself. 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 Leave me alone. Leave me alone. But with me, you can't do nothing. You can do. With me, don't you? And the ability to spot phony vibes at a distance is one of the things that T has earned over the years. He has experienced more scandals than most individuals could handle, as well as the rap game and the fame game. He can tell the difference between a real person and a scheming one. For this reason, he refused to back down and told King up front that he would not allow Big Nana to control their family, their relationship, or their finances. King has no alternative but to take on the burden of responsibility himself, because T has already put an end to any notion of paying for Nana or her child. Raising a child without relying on his father's wealth is the harsh reality of maturity that King must now confront. Let's go back a bit for those who are just now becoming acquainted with this convoluted tale. After their daughter, Zonique, gave birth to a girl in 2020, everyone assumed T and Tiny were settling into their new role as grandparents. Fans believed the Harris family was just organically starting that next phase of life when T's son, Daman, also became a parent around the same time. Then the shocking news arrived. In an interview with Hot 107.9, T revealed that King and his girlfriend were also expecting a child, but the tone seemed odd. This eatery isn't your. This eatery isn't your. I can take anything you make out of my pocket right now. I'm not falling for you. I'm not tripping. Please get out of my face. I'm not addressing you. I'm not addressing you. What on earth is he? Someone who works. What's your name? What's your name? King is my name. You are aware of it. Your mother is also aware. Happy Mother's Day to your mother. Happy Mother's Day to your mother. Greetings on Mother's Day. F your return. What? What's on game? What's on game? Come on over here. I'll demonstrate what I do. Come on over here. I'll demonstrate what I do. Come on over here. His disappointment was evident on his face, even as he made jokes about how he would bring up the children to torment Harris. And before long, the cause was evident. Not only was Big Nana older than King, but others were already questioning her intentions. T raised red lights as soon as he learned about the relationship and warned his son to be on his guard. He was aware that she wasn't in love with King. She wanted money, influence, and access. And let's face it, everyone who has followed their tumultuous father-son history knows that T.I.'s expression of disappointment in his son is not shocking. Their relationship has been unstable for years, and not so long ago, fans witnessed one of their most ugly arguments up close. A heated altercation between King and a person in the crowd was observed during a game. He chose to go live on Instagram rather than calm down, allowing everyone to see how things deteriorated. T attempted to intervene, but King refused to back down and continued to shout in front of everyone, "I stand on business." At that point, T lost it and told his son that by attempting to appear strong and play gangster in public, he was degrading both himself and their whole family. T had to put King in a headlock to remind him who was the true father in that situation because things had gotten so out of hand. However, it didn't end there. King even went so far as to accuse his father of abuse after the game, saying that he had abandoned him in the ghetto. The majority of fans weren't buying it, but it set social media on fire. King was criticized for attempting to promote a story about a struggling rapper from the hood when, in fact, he was raised in a gated estate home with a billionaire father. Fans also weren't timid. Pulling out receipts, they told him bluntly, "Stop lying, your dad is T. You weren't living on the streets." King continued, asserting that he did, in fact, have a difficult upbringing because he spent a lot of time with his hood-dwelling grandmother. He said that living in the mansion was not as permanent as it appeared. Then, however, another startling information was revealed. He acknowledged that he only ever went to T to film Family Hustle episodes. He immediately returned to his grandmother's house after the camera stopped rolling. And King wasn't the only one who felt abandoned. As it happens, none of T's children ever lived with him on a full-time basis. Since T and Tiny were constantly traveling and going about their separate ways, Zanique even acknowledged that she stayed with Tiny's mother. Fans were incredulous. How could there be such a large gap between father and child in one of the most well-known hip-hop families? Money can purchase mansions and expensive cars, but it cannot purchase gifts. The Harris children experienced that absence in their own unique ways. Despite the absence, Ty always made an effort to use words and cautions to help his children. Furthermore, Big Nana was the subject of all of King's warnings. He informed King right on that she was only interested in what she could get out of the relationship, not love. Furthermore, the fact that Nana became pregnant only strengthened rumors that she was attempting to establish her position indefinitely. According to people close to King, she publicly thought that carrying his child would make her famous, get her a bag, and permanently link her to the Harris name. Rumors circulated behind the scenes that she was keeping King under her control by coercing him into separating from his parents. T would have none of it. He publicly criticized Nana for exploiting his son, saying that she had used her experience and age to entice King when he was still too young and unsophisticated to comprehend the wider picture. However, Ty being T, he didn't stop with charges. He conveyed a powerful message. She had no intention of slyly gaining access to the Harris bank accounts. He assured her up front that King would be in charge of everything and that he would not be financially liable for her or the child. She would have to confront that reality with King, not with his father's safety net. If she was sincere about establishing a future with him, fans all across the world had a lot to say about that warning, which sparked a significant argument inside the Harris home. While some felt T was being unforgiving, others thought he was merely attempting to shield his son from making mistakes for the rest of his life. T is aware of how easily one mistake may ruin your entire life and profession. After all, once the pregnancy was made public, King Harris and Big Nana's relationship only became more problematic. The young couple was suddenly the center of attention, and everyone had something to say about them. This was meant to be a moment for King, who has been attempting to forge his own rap career, to concentrate on his songs and work hard for recognition. However, he was trending for baby mama drama and family feuds, rather than songs that would make him famous. And that kind of attention is particularly hurtful in the hip-hop industry, where one's reputation can make or ruin one's career. Clowning that he was more interested in clout than bars, fans began to make fun of him. Some even make a jest that his father lecturing him instead of another rapper hopping on his track is his greatest feature. It's disorganized, and in a sense, King's predicament began to eclipse whatever genuine opportunity he had to establish himself. Not to mention that King and T's relationship was already troubled before the baby announcement was made. A permanent mark was left by the public dispute in which King yelled, "I stand on business," in front of thousands of people. The fans weren't impressed. It appeared to them more like a child trying too hard to be a gangster than someone who was genuinely acting morally. However, Ty wasn't going to stand by and let his son ruin the family's reputation. People were eager to take sides as the headlock incident went viral. While some believed T was degrading his son, others saw it as a necessary reality check. In any case, the dynamic was obvious. King desired independence, but T wasn't going to let him act unchecked. It's like the perfect storm when the pregnancy drama comes along. Too many times in the profession, T has witnessed this tale unfold. Young artists who make choices that alter their entire future because they are blinded by love or lust. He has been cautioning King about Big Nana's lack of interest in him. The backlash escalated when it was revealed that she was significantly older. Supporters began to wonder how someone so different in age could ever become confused with King in the first place. She had a strategy all along, according to insiders, and getting pregnant was her method of solidifying it. However, T wasn't going to let that story continue unchallenged. His money and his empire were off limits, and he made that very plain. King would have to experience directly what it was like to become a father, handle responsibilities, and pay payments. And this is where it gets even more complicated, since King's entire story of growing up was brought back into the public eye. King spent months trying to establish his reputation as the young man from nothing, working hard like all other rappers from disadvantaged backgrounds. Fans, however, didn't buy it. They brought up the mansions, the opulent way of life, and the fact that his father is among the most prosperous hip-hop rappers and businessmen. Many believe that King was fabricating a struggle narrative in order to gain respect in the rap industry. Then he confessed. In fact, he spent a significant portion of his childhood at his grandmother's home in the neighborhood. He acknowledged that he only ever saw his parents when filming for Family Hustle was in progress. After filming was finished, he returned to his grandmother's place. People were taken aback by the realization, since it clarified why King frequently pretended to have anything to prove. Fans were still not quite persuaded though. They reminded him that he always had access to resources, money, and opportunities that other children could only imagine, even if he just lived in the neighborhood part-time. People didn't like it when you pretended that it wasn't the same kind of hardship. Fans thought he was getting further caught up in a pattern of attempting to show something that wasn't true, now that Big Nana was involved. There are many who claim that Nana took advantage of his yearning to rebel, boosting his ego and diverting him from T's advice. People think she persuaded him to cut off his relationship with his parents in order to keep him under her control. T wasn't playing though. He retaliated by telling everyone that he would not be held accountable for any of the turmoil, Nana or the baby. Insiders claim that T informed King up front that he needed to take on grown man responsibilities if he wanted to be considered mature. And that struck hard because King was suddenly unable to rely on his father's fortune. Fans who noticed the irony were shaken by the "you're on your own" message. King was forced to live up to his earlier declaration that he didn't even want his father in his life. Social media users also didn't hold back. This issue also generated a larger discussion about hip-hop families and whether wealth actually helps or damages kids growing up in the spotlight. They dragged him, saying things like, "Remember when you said T wasn't your dad? We'll now figure out how you gonna raise a baby without T.I.'s pockets." King's attempt to portray himself as a struggling hood kid while living in luxury was the ideal example, and people saw right through it. Some fans contended that children of celebrities frequently feel pressured to prove themselves, which can backfire when they try to force an image that doesn't line up with reality. While King's rebellious streak may be the result of gaps created by T and Tiny's absence, others felt that T and Tiny also had some responsibility because their children disclosed that they were frequently absent. While T was busy establishing businesses and maintaining his relevance in the industry, his children were depending on grandparents and other family members for daily support. T isn't scared to call her out, and he made sure she knew she wasn't slipping into the Harris bank accounts without a fight. Insiders say she's been feeding King dreams about creating a family empire, but they're not convinced. They say she wanted fame, money, and the Harris name attached to her brand, and now that she's pregnant, she's closer than ever to accomplishing that goal. While some fans believe T is being too harsh, others contend that he is doing the only thing that could truly teach King responsibility by placing the entire burden squarely on King and forcing him to forge his own path as a father without relying on his father's wealth. By the time this whole situation made it to social media, the drama surrounding the Harris family had become a full-fledged source of amusement for both fans and gossip blogs. The narrative was divided, with some people thinking King was being manipulated and others thinking he knew exactly what he was doing and was simply too obstinate to acknowledge his mistakes. Every action King took was scrutinized, every comment Nana made was examined, and every word Ty said was turned into a headline. In any case, it was obvious that King had backed himself into a corner and that the only way out was through. But King's personality has always leaned toward defiance, which is what makes this so messy. For someone so young, being caught up in family strife, career pressures, and now fatherhood is a storm that could either build or break him. Whether it's yelling at games, going live during fights, or clapping back at critics online, he seems to care more about proving he's real than demonstrating that he's ready for responsibility. Insiders say Big Nana knows exactly how to play into that ego, keeping him wrapped around her finger while fueling his distance from T. Rather than taking the time to think things through, he frequently reacts in the moment, trying to prove he's matured. It has even been suggested by family members that she has been whispering in his ear, telling him that T is not on his side and that he would be better off starting a new life away from his parents. If this is accurate, it could be dangerous because it could put King at risk of making even more serious mistakes. Fans, meanwhile, have been arguing endlessly about whether T handled the situation correctly. Some contend that he set boundaries and demonstrated that no amount of manipulation would shake his household by publicly calling out Big Nana and making it clear he wouldn't support her financially. Others believe T could have handled it privately rather than expressing disappointment in interviews and ending things so publicly. However, T is no stranger to this. He has spent decades dealing with rumors, scandals, and controversies, and he knows that sometimes the best way to put an end to rumors is to address the public directly. By stating that he wasn't going to allow Big Nana to manipulate her way into his family, he corrected the record before the story could get out of hand. But here's where it gets serious. T is trying to keep King from making the same mistakes he did in the past. Everyone remembers T's run-ins with the law, his time in and out of jail, and the many lessons he had to learn the hard way. He has been vocal about drawing lines because he doesn't want to see his son make the same mistakes. He is aware of how quickly poor choices made as a young person can ruin a whole future, so he sees severing Nana's influence as a matter of survival rather than cruelty. He wants King to realize that fatherhood isn't a clout move, a storyline for Instagram, or a means of getting a paycheck. It's real life with real repercussions. Fans recall the stories about how T and Tiny's children frequently stayed with other family members while they toured or filmed, and they pointed out that although the Harris children were raised in a wealthy household, money doesn't replace presence, which may be why King's rebellious streak has been so strong. Regardless of your stance, King is now facing reality head-on. No more cameras, no more excuses, and no more hiding behind his father's legacy. Some fans even feel sorry for him, claiming that he has been acting out for years in an attempt to gain attention and approval from his parents. Others believe that he is simply entitled, spoiled, and now paying the price for wanting to grow up too quickly. The most absurd aspect is that social media has already painted the conclusion for him. Comments are rife with statements such as he desired the hood life. People believe that King, who is only 20 years old, has put himself in a situation that he isn't prepared to escape. Well, he got it now. And this baby mom is going to teach him what true suffering looks like. The gamble is whether King will step up or crumble under the pressure, and Big Nana's reputation has already suffered. However, some are also saying that perhaps this will be the wake-up call he needs, that perhaps fatherhood will force him to mature, set aside the antics, and finally lock in on his career. Fans accuse her of plotting fame through King, calling her an opportunist and a schemer. T's outspoken rejection of her only served to reinforce this perception. And now she's fighting to prove she's not just interested in gaining power and money. The problem is that once people think you're manipulative, it's nearly impossible to get rid of that label. The public will be quick to say, "See, we told you so." So where does this leave King Harris? At a crossroads, he can either take charge of his actions, own up to his mistakes, and forge a new path for himself as a father and artist. Every action she takes, from posting pictures to leaving comments, will be evaluated through that lens. T has cleaned his hands financially, Tiny has remained more silent than usual, and the rest of the family is just waiting to see what happens next. King wanted independence, and now he has it, but with the kind of responsibility that makes or breaks people. Or he can continue to spiral into drama that overshadows his music and ruins his potential before it even blossoms. Time will tell, but one thing is certain. Will King finally grasp what his father has been trying to teach him, or will Nana's influence drag him down even further? This story is far from over, and the Harris family will undoubtedly make more headlines as it develops.